Morning, everyone. Ready or not, the holidays are here. When I was asked to, and by the way, I'm really glad there's tissues up here just in case. When I was asked to share a personal story about a life lesson from a winter holiday gone by, I embarked on a personal Charles Dickens Christmas Carol-esque journey down memory lane. I didn't receive a visit from the spirit of Christmas future, thankfully, but I did get plenty of the greatest hits from my spirit of Christmas past. The first Christmas that came to mind was when I was 6 years old in 1963. My parents divorced when I was still a toddler, and I was living with my dad at the time. President Kennedy had just been assassinated the month before, but my dad and stepmom made sure I and my two older brothers, my two new stepsisters, and my one-year-old baby brother had a warm and jolly season. That Christmas was when I got my first candy apple red bicycle with training wheels and tassels coming out of the handles. That bike taught me if you don't want to fall down, you need to keep moving forward. And when you do fall down, crying isn't going to get you back up. That bike was my absolute favorite. My favorite, that is, until the following year, in 1964, when I got my orange gold Schwinn Stingray with butterfly handlebars and a white banana seat. I have to say, that one is still my favorite. 12 years later, in 1976, during a junior year semester abroad in France, another memorable holiday was Christmas on the Cheap in London, followed by my first trip to Paris on New Year's Eve. I had a wonderful dinner with a fellow student in a cafe on the left bank, complete with a bottle of champagne, and followed shortly thereafterwards by a bout of food poisoning. New Year's Eve was spent on my knees in front of a toilet. But it was my first trip to Paris, and I was determined to make the most of it. So the next day, I dragged myself out of bed, and I saw the sights. That taught me what counts is not so much what curveballs life throws you, but how you respond to them. That, and I also learned that you can snap back really fast when you're 19 years old. But into every life, some rain must fall. Some Christmases were sad. When I was still in grade school, I lost two grandparents on successive years, both around Christmas time. Something about Christmas. Even sadder, on Christmas night of 2007, my mother passed away suddenly. And now, of course, every Christmas I remember that. She had a wicked sense of humor and a penchant for drama. Somehow I can't help thinking the timing wasn't completely coincidental. And every Christmas she's giving me a little wink from on high. But of all my Christmas memories, the one that sticks out was my 8th Christmas in 1965, when I was in 2nd grade. I was still living with my dad and stepmom, and at that time in San Clemente, the Supremes' Merry Christmas album had just been released, and we were listening to that and to Andy Williams and Robert Goulet, nonstop. My mom, who I missed very much, was living at the time in Sherman Oaks in a one-bedroom apartment and working as a social worker for the Los Angeles County Social Work Department. She was supposed to come down for Christmas Eve, and I couldn't wait to see her. Hours went by, but no mom. I was so excited I could hardly eat dinner, but dinner ended and still no mom. Dad kept on saying she was coming, but that she'd be late. Finally, when it was bedtime, my dad said that she had to work late and wouldn't be able to come at all. So I was crushed and angry and inconsolable. Several months later, the circumstances changed. My mom remarried, and my two older brothers and I went to live with her in Simi Valley up in Ventura County. I was young enough that I didn't fully understand the situation, but I was happy to be with my mom. At some point, the topic of the prior Christmas came up, and she explained that on Christmas Eve, she had a client who was pregnant, single, without any food, and sick with German measles, which was going around that winter. She said it broke her heart not to see us for Christmas, but she couldn't leave this woman by herself. So she bought her food out of her own pocket and spent Christmas Eve with her. To be honest, folks, at the age of 8, I still didn't think that was a very good reason. But in later years, I grew to understand what a sacrifice that was and how much love it really took to do that. And apparently her boss thought so too, because before leaving social work in 1966 to help Michelle, my youngest sister, she received a personal commendation for extraordinary service from Pat Brown, the governor of California at the time. I will always be proud of my mom for what she did that night and grateful for the example she set, which really was my best Christmas present ever. Thanks.
Good morning. Thank you, Scott. That was beautiful. When I was asked to share for this service, I tried to consider the opportunity carefully instead of launching headlong into it. That's a new thing I'm trying. I asked my husband, Noah, can you think of a compelling reason why I shouldn't say yes? He paused. You have a love-hate relationship with Christmas, he said, finally. I replied gleefully, oh, I hate Christmas. And here we are. I want to start by saying that I was a Christian as a child and teenager. So when I think of winter holidays past, most of my experiences were Christmas-related. As I got older, I expanded my friend group and began attending one friend's Hanukkah celebrations, as well as an annual joint holiday venture called Hana-Yulismus, which was epic. But most of my stories today are about Christmas. Now let's find some lessons. My first lesson is love. For me, Christmas comes with a lot of baggage. Like I said, I was raised Christian. The churches I attended talked about God's love, but it was mixed in with a lot of other things, often with an emphasis on the sinfulness and unworthiness of humans. We sang hymns that used words like vile and wretch to describe humans, to contrast human failings with God's holiness. Every December, the story of Jesus' birth was also infused with these messages. I'm paraphrasing here, but the messages I remember were something like, isn't it amazing that Jesus was willing to humble himself so much and be born in a barn and then die on the cross for your sins because he loves you so much, even though you're basically garbage? It's not great. I have moved away from Christianity for a lot of reasons, and it's hard to disentangle Christmas from Christianity. At the same time, I find a lot of secular elements of Western Christmas celebrations to be grating. For example, I dislike a lot of secular Christmas music. Now, this is where it gets contradictory because there are several old Christmas hymns I enjoy. Listen to this verse from It Came Upon the Midnight Clear, written in 1849 by Edmund Sears, who was a Unitarian, by the way. And ye beneath life's crushing load, whose forms are bending low, who toil along the climbing way with painful steps and slow. Look now, for glad and golden hours come swiftly on the wing. O rest beside the weary road and hear the angels sing. I love a song about hope. But as a non-Christian, I don't believe that Jesus' birth and death are the source for that hope. I believe that hope for our world lies in us humans, making both internal and interpersonal changes and sweeping systemic changes. So even though I appreciate the imagery and poetry of some religious Christmas music, I am, overall, ambivalent about it. Do you know what I am not ambivalent about? the 1992 cinematic masterpiece, The Muppet Christmas Carol, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. With all my complicated feelings, I find some Christmas themes to be comforting and meaningful, like the idea of Christmas as a reminder for humans to be extra loving toward one another through service, generosity, and kindness. The Muppet Christmas Carol exemplifies these themes, maybe even more than the original story by Charles Dickens. Listen to this lyric, sung by Tiny Tim, who is an adorable frog Muppet. Bless us all, that as we live, we always comfort and forgive. We have so much that we can share with those in need we see around us everywhere. Let us always love each other, lead us to the light. Let us hear the voice of reason singing in the night. Let us run from anger and catch us when we fall. Teach us in our dreams, and please, yes, please, bless us one and all. That sounds positively you. So that's the first lesson. Choose love, even if you have a complicated relationship with winter holidays. Love by giving generously, looking out for those who are suffering, and serving others. Honestly, all year, but sure, at Christmas too. Lesson 2 is, less is more. Winter holidays can be overwhelming. My memories of Christmas or of holidays past involve so much doing and going. Pageants, recitals, gift exchanges, parties, etc. It's exhausting. When I was little, my maternal grandparents had a small cut-your-own Christmas tree farm in North Georgia. When I think of Christmas, I remember spending weekends helping at the Christmas tree farm. My dad would help my grandpa with the actual work. We kids would mostly play hide and seek in the Christmas trees, get in the way, and make crafts and hot cocoa with my grandmother. It was idyllic for us kids, but I know it was a lot of work for the adults. At that time, gatherings with my extended family were a complicated system of name exchanges and gift buying and gift opening. As we all grew, large family gatherings evolved into simpler celebrations of family time. We're here, we're together, that's enough. Eventually, my grandparents stopped selling Christmas trees, and we all spent more time around Christmas relaxing. These days, during the holiday season, I try to do less. I am thoughtful about what I commit to and try to make sure the holiday season has plenty of downtime to just be. I have a less is more approach to gift giving too. For one thing, it's better for the environment. Less stuff equals less manufacturing, less shipping, and less waste. When Noah and I exchange gifts with family and friends, we try to give consumables, like experiences or special food items. For me, less is more also looks like minimal traditions. The idea of posting carefully curated photos of holiday activities every year stresses me out. I don't want to perform the holidays. I just want to enjoy them. So that's my lesson. Less is more. Release what does not serve you. Did you do something last year or every year for the past 10 years and you don't want to do it this year? That's okay. Don't let traditions become a burden. The only holiday tradition I consistently follow is watching The Muppet Christmas Carol. My third and final lesson is about loss. And I'm glad that Celia and Scott both touched on this too. We're all in alignment. Christmas makes me sad. For many adults, there's some sadness around the holidays, a little merry melancholy, a little wistfulness for times gone by. Messaging from ads and holiday movies emphasizes joy and merriment, but nothing is as simple or magical as it was when we were kids. As we grow older, so do our families. Cousins and siblings move away. Family members die. The longer we live, the more people we love, hopefully. And the more people we love, the more often we will experience loss. My grandparents sold their farm years ago and moved to an apartment in a retirement community. Within the last 6 years, my grandfather and both of Noah's grandmothers died. Many of our Christmas decorations came from their homes, So if we choose to decorate for the holidays, we have constant visible reminders of our grandparents. We can't be expected to experience Christmas without some bittersweetness. And sometimes it's more complicated than that. About 10 years ago, my sister died. We were both in our early 20s. All of my childhood holiday memories have her in them, and almost all of my holidays as an adult have been marked by her absence. Sometimes I am surprised by the intensity of my grief at this time of year. Holiday commercials featuring happy families reuniting and hugging feel like a personal attack. So here's my third holiday lesson. Make space for the loss. Invite your grief to the gift exchange. You should know that your grief will bring a crappy gift. Mine usually brings general crankiness and unexpected crying. One of my favorite podcasts is called Terrible. Thanks for asking. Guests come on the show and speak candidly about difficult things they have experienced or are experiencing. The podcast has a winter tradition of creating an episode where people send in stories about their complicated relationships with winter holidays. They call the episode Happy-ish Holidays. That is what I aim for these days, and I invite you to try it. Have the days you have. Feel your feelings. Don't punish yourself for not feeling festive enough. New traditions can sit alongside the familiar sadness. Take care of yourselves. Have happy-ish holidays, dear ones. And if you haven't seen it, please watch The Muppet Christmas Carol. Thank you.